I liked to go running after dinner every night at college. I was known as the bravest boy in our gang. I've always been adventurous and willing to take risks. I live in a small town. After my parents died, I inherited their house. I set up an office space. I am a pro gamer, and I write for tech sites. I was completely satisfied with my life until this incident. It was a sweltering Monday evening. Worn out from work stress, I longed for a run post-dinner. I donned my gym gear and headed out. My neighborhood lies near an abandoned factory, surrounded by dusty trails leading into the woods. About 5 to 7 minutes into my run, I paused before the old factory. I remembered the scary stories my father used to tell about this factory. Many said that this factory hid a place for bizarre experiments, but one day a fire broke out and the whole place burned down. Since then, this land has become an abandoned place. I stared intently at the black, dilapidated structure. It still makes me shudder to think that crazy people were experimenting here. I finally shrugged and started running again. I decided to take a tour of the area surrounding this plant, so I will make a great circuit, and going around in circles will help me find my way back. I looked at my watch and saw that it was 10 p.m. The factory stood right in the middle of the field. As I approached the entrance of the factory, I heard a noise. At first I couldn't identify it, but the further I went, the louder the sound became. The sound, a woman's cry, stopped me cold. Did I hear that right? Before I could process, another scream pierced the air. Without hesitation, I moved toward the factory. Its shattered windows and glass testified to years of neglect. After some deliberation, I pushed forward toward the entrance. Overgrown weeds blanketed the ground, making each step a challenge. The sound of the wind and crickets really made me feel like I was in a horror movie. Standing in front of the factory's main door, an inner voice told me that I shouldn't be there. I pushed open the half-broken door and tiptoed in. A large, empty hall stretched before me. The ground was covered with dust and all kinds of dirt. At the end of the hall, I saw an iron staircase leading upstairs. But the whole place seemed abandoned. I was wondering if I should go up, when I saw a thin ray of light coming from the floor under the stairs. I hadn't noticed it until now. I cautiously approached this area of the ground. I saw that a square trapdoor was laid on the ground. I quickly realized that this lid was just an entrance to the basement area. I'd heard enough bizarre stories about the experiments under this plant. There was even talk of a secret lab hidden under this property. I got to my knees and lifted the lid to look inside. I wanted to find out what was going on down there. What I saw terrified me forever. There were 6 or 7 strangely dressed people. They surrounded a cage in which stood a gigantic evil creature. His body was black, but his eyes shone like lightning. The glowing eyes were the source of the light I noticed earlier. The creature's piercing shrieks resonated as the individual struggled to contain it within the cage. Suddenly my phone rang, capturing the creature's attention. Its laser-like gaze poured into me, rendering me momentarily blind. Through the haze I heard a man's urgent warning: never stare into SCP-15's eyes. I bolted, running as fast as I could to escape. Though my vision gradually returned, terror propelled me home. Once inside, I slammed the door shut. That night marked the beginning of inexplicable changes in me. No matter my diet or routines, I rapidly lost weight. Even my neighbor, Madam Chairman, gaped at my appearance. Concerned, she asked, "Jeremy, are you very ill? Are you suffering from a serious illness?" "No." I don't know, Madam Chairman," I said in a weak voice. "I have consulted my doctor and many others, but no one has been able to identify my problem." One night I was sitting in my kitchen having dinner. Suddenly I saw a black shadow moving in my garden. My stomach clenched with fear. The garden door is right next to my kitchen. The black shadow rushed to the door and I saw the handle turn on its own. I ran to block the door to prevent anyone trying to get in. I almost slammed the door and looking out the window, a pair of spotlights flashed behind the glass. It was the same creature I had seen, the abandoned kitchen. I was standing face to face with this demon. The only obstacle between us was my wooden door. I knew the door was nothing to this giant. How could he have followed me like that? I screamed for help, but no one heard my screams. The evil giant then knocked violently on the door. I was thrown with a huge force and fell to the ground. The door shattered before my eyes. SCP-15 was standing right in front of me. He opened his huge mouth. I saw sharp yellow teeth gleaming in his huge jaw. I screamed, knowing it was probably the last cry of my life. Then I fainted. I woke up in a hospital bed. 2 days after the incident, I was shocked to find myself alive. I asked the doctor if they had found the creature that attacked me. She looked at me mysteriously. "What do you think happened to you?" in a convincing tone. I said, "I was attacked. His demon attacked me. No one saw it. He has huge bright eyes. My God, his eyes." The doctor said, "Calm down, Jeremy. You were found unconscious at home. There were signs of break-in at your back door. Your neighbor passed by and thought you had been robbed and eaten. That's why they brought you here. You don't remember anything." My eyes frozen with terror. I looked out the window and said, "That means he's still out. It's still not." Maurice looked at me with terrified eyes and spoke. Everyone in the room fell silent. Immediately, the crackling of wood burning in the fireplace created a gloomy atmosphere. John got up and headed for the bar. Rosie and I exchanged glances on the living room couch. My husband Maurice and I invited our friends to dinner. John and Rosie have been close friends for 10 years. I looked at Maurice and I said, "Aren't you exaggerating a little?" Maurice opened the living room window. A gust of icy wind blew into the room. Winter nights in Oxfordshire are truly unforgiving. Maurice looked out and stared at the dark valley for a moment, then said in a low voice, "We are the people of Tomby. Oxfordshire is stricken with an ancient curse. None of us can deny it." Rosie said, "But I agree with June. It's been a long time now. We should forget what happened 12 years ago." I threw wood in the fireplace and I said, "Maurice, close the window. It's really cold, you know." Maurice closed the window and sat down at the counter. Jean poured her a glass of wine and said, You know how it all started?" "Rose," he said in a sarcastic voice, "it would be fun to hear a scary story by this winter night, I think." I laughed and said, "Yes, a little count won't hurt, I guess." Maurice took a sip of his glass and stared into the burning fireplace. He stared at the fire for a moment and said, "This is scarier than any ghost story because it's not a story. This is a real and terrifying incident that happened in this town 12 years ago. I'm sure you all know the poem of the Crooked Man. There is a saying in our city that if you recite this poem aloud, you will be subject to the curse of the Crooked Man. The origin of this poem comes from a small house on the outskirts of our city. There was a man, but no one remembers his name. Everyone called him the Twisted Man. His back was broken and his legs were twisted, fractured. Out of desperation and because of the tortures of the villagers, he committed suicide. When the villagers forced his door, they saw his body hanging from a rope. His eyes were wide open, as if they were all staring at them. Not only that, some said that an evil smile marked his livid face. His spirit began to attack those who lived alone on winter nights. He would enter their homes, destroy everything, but let them live. Wow, a cripple, he's invincible. No one who saw it with their own eyes could say a word. Then he died that year. Then all of a sudden he disappeared and came back every 12 years. Since then he has come back from the dead and haunts this city. Today is the day he must take revenge on this city. There were only 2 ways to know he was there. In a muffled voice, Rose said, what are her 2 ways? Maurice looked at us and said, the house he's targeting is cracking in the wall and roof, and you can see it on the bodies of his victims. In a serious tone, John said, my father told me that this incident really happened. A twisted man haunts our village. I couldn't hold back my laughter. I almost cried so much I laughed. My God, what is wrong with the men of our town? You're kidding me, I hope. Rose says, this story really scares me. I shouldn't have asked you to tell it. Maurice June said, my dear, there were people who thought like you until they became victims or saw their loved ones become victims. You have to be ready, you can't beat him. My grandfather told me, if you hear him knock, never open. Then I lost patience, got up and said, okay, that's enough. I'm going to recite the poem aloud now and show you that it's just a made-up story. Nothing more. Everyone stood up, shocked. Maurice said, no, June, you shouldn't say her name out loud, it's a curse. I began to recite the poem aloud. He was a crooked man who walked with a crooked step. He found a crooked room near a crooked fence. He bought a crooked cat who caught a crooked mouse, and they lived together in a crooked little house. Did something happen? I asked after finishing the poem. Maurice was staring at the door, terrified. Rose was on the verge of tears. John listened carefully if anyone approached the door, but nothing happened. I sat down and said, see, I told you so. Just a scary story. Come on, let's get to the table. During dinner, everyone began to relax about this story, but my husband did not address a single word to me. It worried me that I had gone too far with my joke today, but I wanted to prove to Maurice that he was afraid for nothing. John and Rose went home. After dinner, I had another glass of wine. Maurice read 101 Moments sitting by the fireplace to break the awkward silence between us. I said, you know, I was just kidding. Don't be mad at me. Maurice looked at me coldly and said, I'm going to bed. Good night. I decided to sleep on it too. After 1 a.m., I got up and went to the kitchen. I was cleaning the remaining dishes when my eyes went to the ceiling above my head. I saw that a small crack had appeared there. For a second, my stomach clenched with fear. Has it already started? Did I really invoke the crooked man? But I came to my senses and realized that our house is very old. It is therefore normal to see such cracks and damage in old walls. The clock in the hallway struck 2 o'clock. I was about to go upstairs when I heard a light knock at the front door. My eyes were troubled. I realized I was drunk, so with a staggering step, I headed for the front door. Standing at the door, I said, "Who's there?" A whisper came from the other side. I asked again, "There is someone." No answer. I turned around and started walking. As soon as I took the first step, someone knocked violently on the door, almost chilling my blood. I turned around and yelled, "Whoever you are, I won't open." I ran to my room, terrified. The door was locked from the inside, but I could hear muffled sobs, like someone suffocating in pain. I tried to open it, but it was locked from the inside. I knocked on the door. "Boris, why did you lock the door?" The crying became louder. I pushed the door hard to break it. The door opened with a loud noise. What I saw next shocked me deeply. A bony man, tall and menacing, stood in the middle of the room. He grabbed my husband by the neck and twisted his arms like a puppet. I could see that my husband was paralyzed with pain. He lost consciousness with every crack of bone. I screamed with all my might when the creature looked at me. Yes, I saw his face. I saw the crooked man. I couldn't see my husband that night. When the neighbors came, they found me unconscious on the floor. Our room was devastated. It's been a year now since my husband died. He was in a coma for a month and then died in his sleep. I discovered the secret organization, SCP, that is trying to capture this creature. I heard they named the Twisted Man SCP. They say no one saw it and lived to describe it, but I saw it that night. If you can contact me, my mission is to track down my husband's killer and get it over with. I'm a scientist. The idea of how life arose on our planet has always fascinated me. I studied microbiology at a university in California. In my last years, I applied for a research internship in an experimental center. The institute kept a low profile, but as I worked there, I realized they were hiding something from us. My friend Emily and I both worked as interns. We helped the researchers in the lab and got a good salary in return. The learning opportunities were also interesting. One day, Emily and I were having lunch in the cafeteria. Trust me, Christy, this place is boring. We should have taken the internship offered by our Lord. I mean, he was a good-looking kid, she said, laughing. I said, come on, stop being an idiot. I like this place. Emily rolled her eyes and said, it's because you're so boring. We've been friends since the first day of Easter, so I never get offended when she makes fun of me. That's normal. Between friends, we were chatting while snacking when suddenly we overheard a conversation, okay? We prepared the room for the specimen. You can tell them to bring it here tonight after everyone left. I followed the path and saw two men near our table, chatting with serious faces. When I noticed who had just spoken, our eyes met by chance. He looked at me and smiled. Or I think someone likes you, Emily said teasingly. Shut up, eat your meal. I answered, embarrassed. I immediately looked away and started eating in silence. In 10-15 seconds, the guy came up to me and said, hi, I'm Damien. I'm a junior researcher here. Emily said, hello, we work as an enchanted intern. I'm Emily. The guy smiled at her and then said, what's your name? I looked at him awkwardly and said, I'm Christy. Damien smiled and said, well, Christy, nice to meet you. I'll see you soon. Oh my God, he's so into you, Emily said. I couldn't help but smile this time. Damien was quite handsome, and since then we started getting closer. Then he asked for my number. We went out a few times and it was nice when we were together. On top of that, he helped me in my work. I quickly understood that he was also very passionate about his profession. His culture and his quick wit often impressed me. 1 after 12 o'clock, I was heading to Lab 203 when I saw Damien in the hallway talking to a security guard. As I approached, I heard him say, always check the lock on the door. We all have to be very careful with SCP, and specimens in research labs often carry code names, so at first, this didn't surprise me. But on the way back, out of curiosity, I asked him what is SCP. Damien has always been a careful driver, but at that moment he braked abruptly by accident. The car swerved and we stopped in the middle of the road. People started honking behind us. We could have been hit by a car. What the fuck was that? I screamed, scared. Damien said hesitantly, I'm sorry, Christy. I just got distracted the whole way. We didn't say anything more. I stayed at his house that night. I was surprised Damien didn't even mention SCP. Despite my questions, something told me he was hiding information about this specimen. The next morning we went to work and I asked her again, huh? You didn't tell me what that SCP was? Damien smiled as if he had completely forgotten about the incident, but I could tell he wasn't. He then said, you know, sometimes we use various subjects for our research. This one is unique. It's like a microorganism, really. Can I participate in this research? That would add points for my dissertation, I said. Damien's face turned pale and he stammered, okay, I still have to ask my superiors. We'll see if I can do anything. Until then, whenever I was interested in a project, Damien always included me, or at least let me tour the lab so I could learn for myself. But this time, his mixed reaction told me that day Damien avoided me and didn't even come for lunch. Emily said, sounds like your first couple's argument. No, I sighed and said, I don't know. Since I questioned him about the specimen, his behavior has changed strangely. What specimen? Emily asked. I'm not sure. I heard him warn a guard about an SCP. Did I answer? Well, I also heard there's a secret thing in a lab in the basement, Emily said. They have a lab in the basement. Did I ask? Yes, and interns have told me it's the most mysterious part of this facility. Apart from a few special researchers, no one is allowed inside, Emily said. I got to thinking, if SCP is just a microbe, why are there so many secrets around it? Suddenly, an idea occurred to me. Emily and I decided to explore the 3-story research institute to see if there was a separate lab for this mysterious specimen. But obviously we didn't find any such coin. I was certain this thing was kept in the basement lab. I came home from work and took a shower. When I got back, I saw 3 missed calls on my phone. It was Damien. I called him back and he apologized. He came to my house, we had dinner, and everything went back to normal. But I already had other projects in mind. Emily and I decided to infiltrate the building around midnight. I knew Damien still had the keys to the lab and the entrance on him. After he fell asleep, I took the keys and told Emily I was coming. I just wanted to know what the damn SCP was. When we arrived, the institute seemed haunted. The pale glow of the moon and the crickets made it even more sinister. We went through the gates very discreetly. We didn't want to attract any unwanted attention. After opening the main door, we headed for the basement. The door was locked with chains and a metal padlock. After 2 or 3 tries with different keys, we finally managed to open it. As soon as we went down to the basement, we understood why everyone was so secretive about this part of the research center. There was a long corridor, and believe me, there was only one room at the end. The door bore a large warning sign, and underneath a plaque identified the shy guy. He's just a guy, Emily said in shock. I was shocked too. Damien told me it was a microorganism. But what the hell is going on here? Suddenly we heard crying coming from that room. We rushed over and Emily said, "Hey, are you okay?" But no one answered. Only a sobbing voice continued to moan in pain. Disgusted and annoyed by the cruel culture of this establishment, I began to unlock the door. I turned the key and a blue button started blinking just above the door. I was about to press when Emily stopped me and said, "Christy, I don't know if this is a good idea." I replied, "They do. God knows what crazy experiments on a poor human being. So yes, I think it's a good idea to unlock the door and release him without further hesitation." I pushed the button and a huge alarm went off. I realized you have to remove the key before you press the button. That was a clever trick to avoid security breaches, right? Christy, what did you do? I turned around and saw Damien in the hallway, his face horrified. The door opened and before I knew it, I saw a long hand grab Emily and hurl her into the air. She screamed in terror and fell to the ground with a thud, then a frightening human silhouette and out of the room. The humanoid creature had very little muscle mass, clearly suffering from severe malnutrition. His arms were grossly disproportionate, giving him the appearance of nothing less than an alien. Screamed and started running to escape. Emily got up and limped behind me. I saw the creature speeding towards Emily. I came back to help him, but before I could reach him, the creature had grabbed him. She then did something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. She tore Emily's limbs apart like a broken doll, then began to devour her. I screamed again and again, but the creature wouldn't stop. I heard him chewing my poor friend's flesh. Soon after, a group of 7 or 8 guards came down the stairs. Damien pulled me out and the guards tried to stop the creature from escaping. I guess they managed to contain SCP-096 again. I could never forgive myself for acting like a stupid kid who let her friend die. Damien and I left the area, the Institute having ordered us to disappear. At one point, Emily's parents were told that she had died in a laboratory accident. I couldn't face her parents or my own guilt. I fled town, dropped out of school, and haven't spoken to my family in a week. If I do, I don't know how to even begin explaining the wreckage of my life to them.